The Galactic Council had convened their grand hall buzzing with representatives from across the universe. They came from every corner of the galaxy, from the floating cities of the Jovians to the deep-sea caverns of the Zenithians. This was a rare meeting, one held only once every 100 cycles, where the brightest minds and leaders discussed the future of the galaxy. However, this year, a grim shadow had settled over the assembly. Whispers spread like wildfire among the various species gathered, their curiosity piqued by an anomaly none could ignore: the absence of the human delegation. Earth, despite being one of the newer members of the Council, had made a significant impact. Their technological advancements and innovative approach to intergalactic problems had earned them a solid reputation, and yet their seats were conspicuously empty. It wasn't like the humans to be tardy, much less miss such an important event. Tendra, the Arcturian ambassador, felt the tension in the air. Her iridescent wings fluttered nervously as her compound eyes scanned the room. She had a deep respect for humans. Though physically weaker compared to many other species, they had a resilience that couldn't be underestimated. But their absence today had sparked confusion and concern. As she approached the central podium to begin the proceedings, an alarm blared through the hall, cutting through the chatter. The crystalline walls of the chamber glowed red, signaling an emergency. Instantly, chaos erupted. Delegates scrambled to their communication devices, trying to contact their ships or home planets. The sudden alarm had rattled even the most seasoned diplomats. "Attention all delegates," boomed the Council's automated security system. "An unidentified object is approaching the galactic core. All ships are advised to enter defensive positions immediately." Panic seized the room as everyone tried to understand what was happening. Even Tendra, usually calm in a crisis, felt a shiver run down her spine. The galactic core was one of the most fortified areas in the universe. For an unidentified object to reach it undetected was not only a mystery, but a threat. Through the confusion, Tendra's gaze was drawn to the holographic display at the center of the hall. It showed a live feed of the incoming object, still far away but moving with alarming speed. At first, it was just a small dot against the backdrop of stars, but as it grew closer, it became clear that this was no ordinary vessel. Gasps echoed through the chamber as the ship's colossal size became apparent. It was a behemoth, far larger than anything anyone had ever seen, dwarfing even the largest battlecruisers of the Arcturians and Zenithians. Its surface shimmered with alien metals and energy signatures, some of which were completely unrecognizable. But what truly caught the attention of everyone in the hall was the unmistakable flag emblazoned on the ship's side, a blue and white symbol of Earth. "The humans," Tendra whispered, her wings trembling. As the vessel approached, the grand hall fell into a stunned silence. All eyes were glued to the display as the ship came to a stop just outside the galactic core's protective barrier. It was a sight to behold. A ship that defied all known laws of physics and engineering. Before anyone could react, the central holographic display flickered and shifted. A human figure appeared, a woman with dark skin and sharp eyes that seemed to contain the very stars within them. "Greetings, Galactic Council," she said, her voice calm but commanding. "I am Admiral Zarachan of the Earth Federation. I apologize for the disturbance our arrival may have caused." Tendra and the other council members exchanged bewildered glances. This was beyond irregular. The human delegation hadn't just arrived late, they had arrived in the most dramatic fashion possible. "We have brought with us the Titan," Admiral Chen continued, her voice resonating throughout the hall. "Earth's greatest achievement. A ship not just built for defense, but for exploration and cooperation." The holographic display zoomed in on the massive ship, revealing its intricate details. Entire ecosystems were housed within its hull, self-sustaining environments capable of supporting millions of human lives. Its power sources pulsed with energy that seemed to come from the very stars themselves. And its weapons, massive cannons and energy shields, were unlike anything the Council had ever seen. Tendra's heart raced. This was no ordinary ship. It was a declaration, a statement of human ambition, resilience, and ingenuity. "The Titan is our offering to the galaxy," Admiral Chen said. "A symbol of our commitment to peace and progress, but it is also a warning. The universe is vast and dangerous, and there are forces beyond our understanding. The Titan was built to protect not just Earth, but every world in this council." Murmurs of awe and fear spread through the room. Some delegates were impressed by humanity's accomplishment, while others saw it as a threat. One of the Vulcan representatives, a being with multiple tentacles and gleaming eyes, raised his voice in alarm. "If a single species should wield such power," he said, his tentacles writhing in agitation, "this is an act of aggression." Admiral Chen remained unfazed. "We understand your concerns, but I assure you the Titan was built out of necessity. We face threats that you cannot even imagine, and we believe that only by standing together can we overcome them." The room erupted into chaos once more. Delegates from different species argued amongst themselves, some calling for the disarmament of the Titan, while others urged for caution. Tendra, however, remained silent, her mind racing. There was something in Admiral Chen's voice, something deeper than pride or fear. Before she could dwell on it, the holographic display shifted again, showing an incoming transmission. An urgent message flashed across the screen. Unknown ships approaching. Tendra's wings flared out in shock. The galactic core, already on high alert, was about to face another threat. And this time, it wasn't just a test of humanity's resolve. It was a test for the entire Council. The Galactic Council had convened, their grand hall buzzing with representatives from across the universe. They came from every corner of the galaxy, from the floating cities of the Jovians to the deep-sea caverns of the Zenithians. This was a rare meeting, one held only once every 100 cycles, where the brightest minds and leaders discussed the future of the galaxy. However, this year, a grim shadow had settled over the assembly. Whispers spread like wildfire among the various species gathered, their curiosity piqued by an anomaly none could ignore: the absence of the human delegation. Earth, despite being one of the newer members of the Council, had made a significant impact. Their technological advancements and innovative approach to intergalactic problems had earned them a solid reputation. And yet, their seats were conspicuously empty. It wasn't like the humans to be tardy, much less miss such an important event. Tendra, the Arcturian ambassador, felt the tension in the air. Her iridescent wings fluttered nervously as her compound eyes scanned the room. She'd had a deep respect for humans. Though physically weaker compared to many other species, they had a resilience that couldn't be underestimated. But their absence today had sparked confusion and concern. Her multifaceted eyes caught sight of the Vulcan representative, Guerrera's tentacles undulating in agitation as he muttered darkly to himself. The methane-breathing Jovians inflated their gas sacs in annoyance, and his Zenithian shimmered, its bioluminescence dimming as its color spectrum shifted in unease. A palpable unease rippled through the chamber. As Tendra approached the central podium to begin the proceedings, the murmur of unease in the hall was cut short by a deep rumbling alarm. The crystalline walls of the chamber, typically refracting a soft and calming glow, now pulsed with a menacing red light, signaling an emergency. Instantly, chaos erupted. Delegates scrambled to their communication devices, their voices rising in panic as they tried to contact their ships or home planets. Even the most seasoned diplomats found themselves unnerved by the sudden turn of events. "Attention all delegates," boomed the Council's automated security system. "An unidentified object is approaching the galactic core. All ships are advised to enter defensive positions immediately." The suddenness of the announcement sent a wave of shock through the assembly. The galactic core was the heart of their collective civilization, a nexus of trade routes and diplomatic relationships, and the most fortified region in the known galaxy. For an unidentified object to reach it undetected was not only unprecedented but a direct threat to the entire Council. Panic began to set in. Through the confusion, Tendra's gaze was drawn to the central holographic display, which was now showing a live feed of the incoming object. At first, it was just a small dot against the backdrop of stars, almost insignificant. But as it moved closer, its shape began to take form, growing larger with every passing second. Gasps echoed through the chamber as the true size of the object became apparent. It was a behemoth, far larger than anything anyone had ever seen, dwarfing even the largest battlecruisers of the Arcturians and Zenithians. Its surface shimmered with an unearthly glow, made of materials that appeared both alien and strangely familiar. Energy readings from the ship's core spiked beyond what the Council's scanners could even register, sending sparks of alarm through the security stations. But what truly caught the attention of every delegate present was the unmistakable flag emblazoned on the ship's side, a blue and white symbol of Earth, a stark contrast to the dark metal of the ship's hull. "The humans," Tendra whispered, her wings trembling. As the vessel approached, the grand hall fell into an eerie silence. All eyes were glued to the display as the ship came to a stop just outside the galactic core's protective barrier. It was a sight to behold, a ship that defied all known laws of physics and engineering. Its sheer size seemed to challenge the very fabric of space, its hull glowing faintly with a pattern that resembled stars in a night sky. Before anyone could react, the central holographic display flickered and shifted. The image of the massive ship was replaced by the face of a human, a woman with dark skin and sharp eyes that seemed to hold the very stars within them. Her expression was one of calm authority, though her presence carried with it an unmistakable tension. "Greetings, Galactic Council," she said, her voice calm but commanding. "I am Admiral Zerachen of the Earth Federation. I apologize for the disturbance our arrival may have caused." Admiral Chen nodded in agreement. "You're right, Ambassador. We need every ship we can get. But know this, these void ships are unlike any enemy you've ever faced. They are relentless, and they do not stop until their targets are annihilated." As Tendra relayed instructions to the council members to prepare their fleets, the holographic display shifted once more. The void ships were now dangerously close, their dark forms casting an ominous shadow over the galactic core. The tension in the room was suffocating, as if the very air had been drained of hope. "All hands, prepare for combat," Admiral Chen's voice rang out, resolute and unwavering. "The Titan will lead the charge." As the Titan moved into position, its massive cannons began to hum with energy, and its shields flared to life. The ship, which had seemed so awe-inspiring just moments ago, now appeared as the galaxy's last hope against an ancient and terrifying enemy. The void ships, now within range, opened fire. Beams of dark energy shot from their organic forms, tearing through space and time as they aimed directly for the Titan. But the Titan's shields held firm, absorbing the impact and retaliating with a volley of its own. The battle for the galactic core had begun. And in that moment, Tendra realized that this was not just a test of the humans' resolve. It was a test for all of them. A test of their ability to unite against a common threat. A test of their survival. The future of the galaxy hung in the balance. Part 2, extended. The rising storm. The galactic core had become a theater of chaos, a swirling tempest of fear and resolve. Every eye in the council chamber was fixed on the colossal Titan, its formidable weapons glowing with an eerie luminescence as they charged to full capacity. The air was thick with tension, as if the universe itself held its breath, waiting for the first strike in a battle that would decide the fate of countless civilizations. Admiral Zarachen, her face unwavering on the central holographic display, issued commands with the precision of someone who had faced death countless times. "All human vessels assume formation Alpha. Non-human ships, follow our lead. We need to draw them into a defensive perimeter around the core." Tendra's wings fluttered with anxiety, but she forced herself to focus. "Attention, all council fleets," she broadcasted across the room. "Coordinate with Earth forces. Prepare to engage the enemy at maximum range." Her voice echoed throughout the hall, bouncing off the crystalline walls that pulsed with the energy of the impending conflict. Ships from various species began to maneuver into position, moving into a vast, three-dimensional pattern around the Titan. The battlecruisers of the Arcturians, with their sleek, angular designs and glowing energy shields, took up vanguard positions. The Jovian gas ships, hovering like massive, inflated balloons, began to activate their powerful ion cannons. Meanwhile, the Zenithian warships, shaped like colossal sea creatures, moved with an agile grace that belied their size. The void ships, now clearly visible, were unsettling in their organic, almost otherworldly design. They moved like shadows, darting through the vastness of space with fluid, serpentine grace, seemingly unaffected by the vacuum and gravity that governed other vessels. They appeared more like predators stalking their prey than ships preparing for battle. "They're testing us," Admiral Chen muttered, her voice barely above a whisper, but audible enough to the listening delegates. "Trying to gauge our strength, our tactics." Then, without warning, the void ships unleashed another barrage, their dark beams streaking across the void. The nearest Jovian gas ship was hit, its outer shell shimmering before collapsing inward. A burst of luminous gas vented into space, followed by the flickering of lights as the ship struggled to maintain its form. Within moments, it had lost control, spiraling away from the battle, a silent testament to the ferocity of the enemy's weapons. "Pull back the Jovian fleet," Tendra shouted, her voice breaking slightly. She could feel the collective tension of the room intensifying, fear beginning to take root. "Focus on maintaining the perimeter. We cannot afford to lose any more ships." Admiral Chen, however, remained calm. "All Titan units, lock on to the nearest void ship. Fire on my mark." The command was issued, and the Titan's weapon systems came to life. Cannons the size of small moons rotated into position, and beams of pure, radiant energy shot forth, carving through the darkness of space. One of the void ships was hit directly, a gaping hole opening up in its hull. For a moment, it seemed to waver, its organic form twitching as if in pain. But then, to the horror of all watching, it began to heal itself, the dark material closing over the wound almost instantly. "By the stars," whispered Tendra, "they regenerate." Admiral Chen nodded grimly. "That's what makes them so dangerous. We faced them before. Conventional weapons are almost useless against them unless we strike at their cores. We need to find their weak points, or this battle will be over before it's even begun." The council members exchanged worried glances. This was no ordinary enemy, and the stakes were higher than any of them had anticipated. Greer, the Vulcan representative, couldn't contain his agitation any longer. "We are outmatched. We should evacuate and regroup at a safer location." His tentacles flailed wildly, a visual display of his rising panic. "No," Admiral Chen's voice cut through the chamber like a knife. "If we retreat, we give them control of the galactic core. We must stand our ground here. If the core falls, Every trade route, every alliance, every colony in this galaxy will be at risk. Tendra stepped forward, her voice firm. The human emerald is correct. If we run now, we will be hunted down, one by one. This is our best chance to unite and fight as one. We must find a way to break through their defenses. A moment of silence fell over the chamber, the delegates weighing their options. Then slowly, a sense of resolve began to build. Representatives nodded in agreement, and the room began to hum with renewed determination. Admiral Chen's expression softened just a fraction. We need to concentrate our fire on one ship at a time. Their regeneration is fast, but it isn't instant. If we can hit them hard enough, we can overwhelm their repair mechanisms. Tendra nodded. Agreed. All fleets target the void ship at grid coordinates 67-4B. Focus all firepower on that target. The order was relayed, and ships from every faction began to reposition, their weapons aligning towards the designated target. The void ship at the coordinates seemed to sense the change in tactics and began to move, its organic body rippling as if it were alive. But it was too late. The combined might of the Council's fleets bore down on it with a ferocity unmatched in any previous conflict. The barrage was relentless. Beams of energy, plasma bolts, ion cannons, and missiles all converged on a single point, overwhelming the void ship's regenerative abilities. Its dark shell began to fracture, and for the first time, a sliver of light emerged from within, as if the very essence of the creature was being torn apart. Keep firing. Admiral Chen urged, her voice taut with urgency. And then, in a flash, the void ship exploded, a blinding light swallowing its form before dissipating into the void. Cheers erupted in the council hall, but they were short-lived. More void ships, seemingly angered by the destruction of their kin, surged forward with renewed aggression. Brace for impact. Chen's voice rang out as the void ships opened fire in unison. Dark energy beams streaked across space, striking multiple council ships. An Arcturian battlecruiser was split in two, and a Zenithian ship was sent careening into the gravitational pull of a nearby star. We're losing ships too fast, Tendra said, her tone a mix of fear and determination. We can't hold out like this much longer. Chen's face was grim but resolute. There is another way, she said quietly, almost as if she were speaking to herself. We can use the Titan's experimental weapon, the pulsar cannon. It's untested, and it draws on an enormous amount of energy, but it could take out multiple void ships in a single strike. There was a collective gasp from the council members. They had heard of this weapon. Rumors whispered in dark corners of the galaxy. A cannon that could harness the power of a dying star with the potential to destroy entire fleets in one blast. That could destroy us all, shouted Greer, his tentacles twitching in alarm. You risk annihilating everything within light years, including the core itself. Admiral Chen did not flinch. It's a risk, yes, but it may be our only chance. The void ships have already breached our defenses. If we don't take this chance, they will consume us all. Tendra hesitated. The weight of the decision bore down on her like a physical force. What is the probability of success? She asked. Chen glanced at her console. 30%, she replied. But that's better than 0. I need your authorization, Ambassador. Tendra looked around the room at the faces of the other delegates, some fearful, others resolute. If we do this, she said slowly, we do it together. For the survival of us all. Admiral Chen nodded. Understood. All council fleets, this is Admiral Chen. Prepare to engage the pulsar cannon. Pull back to a safe distance and prepare for potential collateral damage. Ships from every corner of the galaxy began to retreat, creating a vast void around the Titan. The massive ship's hull began to glow with an intense bluish light as energy was siphoned from its core, channeling into the pulsar cannon. The air within the chamber seemed to hum with power, and the delegates could feel the vibrations through the floor even from light years away. Charging sequence initiated, announced the Titan's AI. Time to full charge, 60 seconds. The void ships, sensing the change in energy, began to move erratically, their dark forms swirling with agitation. They surged forward in a desperate attempt to close the distance, their weapons firing wildly. We have incoming, shouted Tendra. All ships, hold the line. Protect the Titan. A fierce exchange of fire ensued. The council fleets, despite their retreat, formed a protective ring around the Titan, taking hit after hit to shield the massive ship as it powered up its weapon. 30 seconds, the AI announced. The void ships intensified their assault, their beams tearing through the lines of defending ships. One by one, the outer ships began to fall, their hulls cracking under the relentless barrage. 15 seconds, the AI continued, its voice steady, almost calm. Tendra's wings were trembling, her compound eyes fixed on the central display. She could feel the fear in the room, but also the determination, the resolve to fight to the last breath. 10 seconds. The Titan's hull was now blindingly bright, the energy pulsing through its structure like a living thing. The void ships, sensing imminent danger, concentrated all their fire on the Titan. 5, 4, 3, 2, fire, shouted Admiral Chen. A beam of pure concentrated light shot forth from the Titan, wider than any star, brighter than any sun. It tore through the void, a supernova of destruction aimed directly at the heart of the void ships. For a moment there was silence, and then, one by one, the void ships began to implode, collapsing in on themselves as the beam passed through them. Their dark forms shimmered, twisted, and then disintegrated, leaving nothing but a scattering of particles in their wake. The beam continued on, carving a path through space until it finally dissipated, leaving only the cold, dark void behind. A stunned silence fell over the council chamber. Then slowly, applause began to build, growing louder and louder until it filled the hall. Admiral Chen's face reappeared on the display. She looked weary but victorious. "The void ships have been neutralized," she said, a small smile tugging at her lips. "We've won, for now." Tendra felt a wave of relief wash over her. But even in this moment of victory, she knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy had faced a test of unity and had barely passed. But there would be more tests to come, more threats, more challenges. And they would need to stand together as they had today if they were to survive. "The battle is over," she said, her voice carrying across the hall. "But the war has only just begun." And with that, the future of the galaxy, uncertain yet hopeful, stretched out before them, like the infinite stars beyond the chamber walls.